Hello Captains, welcome to another Star Trek Online video. I am your host Spock, and yes, I know it has been quite a bit since I have uploaded a video. My last video was the Return for Bajor PvP tutorial, which was over a month ago. If you had not seen the PvP stream, the link is in the description, and I highly recommend you guys check that out as many more battles may be happening in the future. I had also been updating my channel community page for those who are not aware. I stopped using Twitter for channel updates, but I still frequently check other channels on Twitter and support them. I personally needed a break from Star Trek Online videos the past couple of months because I just got burnt out from editing so much. So that being said, I still kept in touch with Star Trek Online community and have a lot of nice information to pile into this video, but not too much to overwhelm anybody here watching. Bacon. As you can tell, I brought out the Excelsior II, which will be the main focus of this video. This ship is fairly new, being released December 6th as the Kurtzman era ship. It was featured in both episodes, The Stargazer and Farewell in Season 2 of Picard. This specific class was designed by concept illustrator John Eves and artist Douglas Drexler, who has been known to contribute numerous Star Trek publications since the 1970s. Just like the predecessor, the Excelsior II class features the saucer, deflector, and nacelle layout common to most Starfleet vessels that we know. And compared to the first iteration of the Excelsior II has an elongated dish and is much larger than the original. I personally like the larger take on the Excelsior II, and I also appreciate how they kept the original design of the deflector area, but almost as if it was more modified. The nacelle colors are light blue with orangey red ram scoops. I really like the look of these nacelles when I am flying the ship in game. They have a likeness of both the original Excelsior and the Sovereign class. The ram scoops also give it that phaser rifle type appearance, not to mention the pylons remind me a lot of the Enterprise C, otherwise known as the Ambassador class Starship. The mix of these three fascinating ships create an interesting conclusion, which is the Excelsior II. Let me know what you guys think of the ship in the comments, because hot take, I think this is the best looking lockbox ship that they released since the T6 Mirror warship. But all bias aside, let's look at some of the design setbacks with this ship. As you can see from the bridge window, there is nothing there but a black barred out texture, which I suppose is meant to represent a tinted view screen. I wish the texture artists spent a bit more time on the windows, view screen, and saucer because they seem really flat compared to other ships. Also, even though the Excelsior II is a different class from the original, that shouldn't stop the player from being able to swap pieces, which is another drawback for me on this ship, considering it doesn't have much customization. But if you're the player who is fine with using stock ship designs, it may not bother you too much. For this next part, we are looking at the shuttle bay door, or doors, which is visible up top towards the neck of the ship. Unfortunately, this ship comes with no hangar bays, even though they are clearly there. This next part I find interesting, however, is the long hallway-like path for this covert hangar at the very tail of the ship. All of what I'm saying is purely speculative, of course, and I believe that this hangar bay is either for the use of worker bees or a captain's yacht. And finally, the cargo bay is located below the ship, which seems to be quite massive in terms of loading capacity. It could hold a number of shuttlecrafts and possibly a runabout if it wanted to. The spotlight located underneath the cargo bay doors is a nice touch as well. I appreciate the light effects this ship gives off, especially with the fleet windows. Now that we're finished talking about the looks of the ship, let's get into the equipment details, which would be the Starship Mastery trait and Universal Console. Now, I have a lot of good things to say about both of these items, so let's start with the Starship trait and its description. Calculated Broadside is an aggro reducing and beam damage increasing Starship trait procced off of Fire at Will and Intelligence Bridge Officer abilities. The duration of this buff lasts for 15 seconds with a 10-second recharge on the effects. Beam weapon damage is boosted to 35% and you gain plus 30 damage resistance to everything only on the side arc of your ship, meaning your front and back will still be vulnerable if your base damage resistance is not up to par. This damage resistance buff can be increased to plus 60 if threatening stance is enabled on your starship. If you're not in threatening stance, you get minus 60% for threat generation aboard your entire ship. If you're lucky enough to own both domino and dynamic power redistribution, this starship trait will be a nice addition to all that bonus energy weapon damage. You must still remember to have a good amount of crit chance and crit severity for this combo to be beneficial. Somewhere around 38 to 45% crit chance and 200 to 400% crit severity should do the job just fine. And quick sidetrack. If you haven't joined my gaming Discord, please go ahead and join us today. In the server you'll find other Star Trek Online players who are very experienced and are willing to teach anyone with friendly advice for the game. If you're interested in a certain setup you want to do for your ship, but you're not sure how to go about it, my Discord server is a good place for you to stop by. And not only do we have a fleet for Star Trek Online, a lot of us in the Discord are very passionate about cars and racing, so we have a club in Assetto Corsa if you want to chat with us there about cars and mods for that game. Anyways, back to the Excelsior. On to the next order of business, we have Universal Console Experimental Power Redirection. It's an interesting name if I'm being honest with you, but overall it sounds pretty menacing. The passive you receive on this console is 4% increased energy damage, which is energy weapon damage, and plus 2.6 Starship weapon amplification, improving hit severity on weapons. I say the passives are really nice considering you're getting another energy weapon boost on top of the Starship trait, but I think it's the clicky ability is what makes this console worthwhile. For 15 seconds, your character gets 60% increased energy weapon damage that scales with your engine, shield, and auxiliary subsystems. The clicky ability will also randomly swap between Beam Overload 3 and Fire at Will 3, while each second applying Auxiliary Phaser Beam Array Overload at Will 3 to 4 random targets. This console is honestly amazing. I am definitely going to grab this ship for myself for this year's event campaign since the footage you're seeing is me using it in the triple test server. The effect this console gives off when you use it is crazy OP in PvE scenarios if you've got the proper build. Well, that about does it for today's ship video. Make sure to stay tuned for another video on the World Razor, which was released recently for this year's 13th anniversary in Star Trek Online. I will also have a whole video on Chapter 23 soon, covering every single item. If you're new to this channel, make sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing, since your support helps me a lot to provide more quality videos for you guys. As always, live long and prosper.